Okay, great. And great job, Marco. We were practicing together last night, so it's great to see those changes. Yeah, that was really fun. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, and oh, actually, we're just gonna, I wanted to make sure I have my notes. One second. Okay, does that look good? Yep. Okay, great. Okay, so this is an exploration of variable type by me, Annie Burke. I just put in a little slide here of everyone who's tuning in. We have people from all across the country tuning in, which is really exciting. We have 3 different time zones represented. We don't have mountain time zone. That's okay. Let me know if you're in the mountain time zone. I would love to know. Yeah, so I just wanted to put that in there, some positive news. Okay, and then a little about me. I am a self-proclaimed type nerd. Yep, here is a pretzel ampersand that I got at an event that I went to that was all about the ampersand, because I'm just that big of a nerd. And then here's me with some big, like, modernist letters at a modernist French museum in France, in Paris, because I was so excited. And so I just had to get a picture with the big letters. Yeah, and here are some typefaces that I've made in the past. The top 2 I made in a class, type design, last year with David Jonathan Ross. The Banksy I made during my winter break because I'm a nerd and that's what I do when I'm on break. And that the colorful one on the bottom I made in Martha's Designing for Joy class. Yeah. Okay, so what are variable fonts? Variable fonts are super rad. They are awesome. They were released as an open type feature in 2016, and they take advantage of an axis that controls the appearance of the font. So fonts can have as many axes as the designer wants, but Glyphs, the popular font design software, only supports 3 axes. So you'll see that 3 are kind of where people max out. Weight, width, level of italic are, as you see here, very popular axes. They've kind of already existed within our like font design worlds. But axes can be anything. They can be level of bubble, level of roundedness of a letter. They can be, yeah, anything you want it to be. Okay, and so some examples of variable type. These are all by my professor, David Jonathan Ross, the class that I took last year. He has been a big support of variable type technology. On this one on the left, this is Fit that he made. It's a typeface that can fit in any space that it occupies. You can see it stretching over there. The middle one is a color variable font that he made. And then that one on the right is an X-ray font. So you can see how we draw the letters and how these change when it's in a variable format, kind of like, yeah, X-ray version. Here is another example of variable type. This is one that we love in class that we'd always nerd out about. It's Chi by Onotype. You can see that the range of a font is now so much larger. What really is a font family is so much more broad than it used to be. You can see here, it looks so different from even just on this one axis, and then you throw the second axis in there and it changes the appearance even more so. Okay, so why variable type? What's the point besides it looking really cool and fun? And so one big benefit is the file size. So here we have FontSmith is talking about a font family that they have all of these different files for, 35 files, and the total file size is 3 megabytes. In the total time it takes to load is 8 seconds on a browser, whereas when you put it in a variable format, it's one file, it's half a megabyte, and it takes 1 second to load on a browser. And then another huge benefit is that the level of customization is a lot more particular. You can see that we have so many more options when we are sliding across an axis rather than a drop-down menu where we're choosing from light, regular, medium. You really can get as particular as you want it, as precise as you want it, and it really gives the designer a lot more freedom to make their designs as custom as they want. So a lot of this is inspired from a lecture that I went to in the fall by Paul Barnes of Commercial Type. He was promoting his Commercial Classics series, which you can see on the right there. He basically talked all about how he was reviving this type from the 19th century, from this London type library, and how much he's obsessed with the 19th century type. And when asked about variable type, he said that he didn't really see the use of it, that it's kind of just like this weird technology, no one's really using it, and that his type foundry, that's one of the most popular type foundries in the world, is also not using the technology. So I kind of set out to challenge that idea. I was like, I don't know, I think there's use for variable type. Yeah, and so you can see that he was talking about like reviving 19th century type, and the usefulness of that is that we have these 500 years of type. When the printing press was created and popularized all the way to the digital age, that punch cutters are designing type, making type, and just really pushing type and design work. And then we get to 1980, and it all gets to be pixel based, which is fun and okay, but we lose the craftsmanship a lot. And so now that type technology doesn't have to be pixel based, we're going back and we're trying to bring back a lot of the type from the 500 years that you know, people were making type. So what is my project? What is my variable font project? So I decided, I was inspired by Paul Barnes to look at this 19th century type and to draw from that. So I found this metal type in the TJ Lyons collection, which we have at MassArt, and I felt really inspired by it. So I wanted to kind of revive it, to bring it back. And here you can see French Clarendon extended over here on the right. And this is a specimen from a type founder that was trying to sell it. It's not always exactly the same, each version. A bunch of foundries were probably trying to sell this at the time. But you can see how the extended version is a little different from the normal version. So you see that we have like a transitional serif here on the E. We don't have that over here on the E. Same with the T, we have these like more rounded terminals. The lowercase a has a diagonal over here, whereas lowercase a on the extended version is flat. So it's not exactly the same when it goes from its normal version to its extended version. So I emailed Matthew Carter. He created Verdana, Georgia, Miller. His typefaces are all over what the Globe uses, New York Times uses, and I emailed him. He lives in Cambridge, not thinking that he would respond back, but he responded back about my project, and he said that whenever he revives something, he's honoring the past, but he's not stuck in the past, and he's always adapting it for the technology that is present today. And he got a MacArthur Genius Grant for this very same concept of bringing type into the present with the current technology, adapting it for our screens. And so, yeah, he said type needs guts, and that you got to honor the past, but still innovate in your own way, and keep moving forward, which is really cool to hear. And it was so cool he responded to my email. So I started doing some variable experimentations where I kind of saw what I could do with this extended text that I found. And so I did one where I made it a monospace type and I font, and I kind of saw what that would look like. And over here, I got rid of the serifs and these things and saw what that would look like if in a variable form. And then I came to the conclusion of like, what's the point of having a whole axis? Like, I don't want half a monospace. I don't want half a serif. Like, I don't know if I would use that. And how can I make a variable font that is useful? And then so I kind of came up with this visualization in my head of like, you've got to think of the whole axis. Like, you cannot just think about this design, the fun animation that you're going to get from going from one to another. Like, you want to use the font at this point, at any point. And you want to make sure that this axis is relevant. And so one thing that is big in type design is designing for display sizes and making the hierarchy more clear in this way. So here, this is from the New York Times. I picked the arts section so none of us get too depressed. And we see that we have the bold display font, and that can be as chunky, as funky as we want it to be because it's bigger, we can see it, it's not a lot of text. And then you can also see that we have our subtitle font, which is a little bit funky, but it's mainly legible, mainly something we can read. And then we have our text font, and that is a lot more plain, a lot less contrast of those thicks and thins, so that we can really easily read it. So then I thought, okay, well, why don't we make this extended, weird typeface into something that's more of a text weight so that I can use it for some body copy, maybe a little caption, maybe like on my poster. And so I did an experiment with the A. You can see here, so this is my first letter that I drew. And then I drew some more letters to see what it will look like. And you can see this axis moving over here. So yeah, so this is our S extended, and what it looks like as a text weight is this. And then we have our E as this bold display funky thing. And then we have, again, as a text, a smaller E. And so here we see that the horizontal stress distribution is actually switching. So we have more weight on the bottom here on the serifs, and we have more weight on the top of the text version. And that's because studies have shown that it improves legibility to have this stress be on the top so that people look at the top, which usually determines the shape of the letter rather than these little serifs on the bottom that are more uniform and less distinct. So it actually does switch in the text, in the typeface. And then here's a little video of the font software that I use and kind of the inner workings of it. It's a little bit of a long video, but you can see that when I make the node first, that determines its compatibility with the other versions of it. I'm going into the font info right here to show that I'm creating these axes right here. And when I click on those, I can change them, determines, yeah, again, what axes I get. The masters are what I'm actually designing, that the variable axes are going in between. And you can see the axis coordinates are also determining where on the axis that is. Yeah. So the first axis that I made, I have the text weight all the way to the big chunky display weight. It kind of has this fun gradient that I really enjoy. And so you can see the progression here. And then here's an animation. And so this was on April 5th. I was ahead of schedule. And I was pretty excited, got the whole alphabet done. It was 104 letters I drew, which was pretty nuts. And then I was like, well, how can I make this typeface more fun? This is kind of like, yeah, it's useful, but it's not inspiring necessarily. It's not super weird, and I don't know, it's not different and unique. So I want to make it a little more unique. So I took a screenshot of the text and I brought it onto my iPad and I drew over it and I erased some things and I saw what maybe I could do, and like maybe I could warp a little bit in this font. And yeah, and so you can see here, this is where I'm designing the letters. You can see that we go from the text weight to the larger weight to the larger wonky weight and then the lighter wonky weight, and these all have to be related. Yeah, and so this is an animation of the wonky weight that, oh yeah, it's animating. So this is the wonky large weight, and then this is the wonky lighter weight. And then we have both to just let those axes go crazy. Yeah, so here's some, here are the weights, here are the different, yeah, the different typefaces essentially that I designed by making these axes. Light, medium, heavy, light wonk, medium wonk, heavy wonk. And of course you can determine how much wonk you want. Here's some more examples of it in use. It has a text space with a little wonk. Here's some more wonky classic. Here's another example that I designed of it. And here's some alcoholic packaging I put on it, pandemic themed, keep calm and zoom on. Yeah, to show how it could be used. And you can see that this is a lighter weight with the wonk, and there's all different variations of it all within the same typeface, and that it still creates hierarchy, but yeah, it's still all related. So thank you so much for tuning in. I think I talked really fast, which is weird because I went over in practice. But yeah, and especially thanks to my parents who supported my education, and it's been a long journey, and my sister supported me this year and made sure that I could work so hard on this project. So yeah, thanks.
You're welcome, Annie.
Good
We
job.
love you.
Good job from your parents.
Thanks.
Good job.
Great job.
Yeah. I wish,
Yeah, does anyone have, oh, thanks.
I wish Hannah could have seen this because she would have been really interested in this.
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
cousin of Annie's.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I'm surprised I probably should ask this before. Like so when did you get into type? Like
A long time ago.
Yeah, I got into it, I guess I went to Penn State originally, so I kind of dabbled in it there. I got really into it during the type design class last year that I took. So that was probably peak. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got a question. Where do you find most of the different fonts? Advertisement or newspapers or magazines, or where are they?
A lot of it's word of mouth, I would say. Instagram's helping right now, I think. People look at certain boundaries and see what certain people are doing, and then those people kind of share other people that are kind of doing fun stuff. So websites, yeah.
So if you create a font, it's out there, anybody can use it. There's no copyright or anything to it.
No, you can, there a lot of font licensing, yeah, that they try to enforce on the internet, yeah, and these boundaries do, yeah.
So are applications using variable fonts right now or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Adobe Creative Suite supports variable fonts, except for, I was trying to use it in After Effects, and After Effects wasn't great. You kind of need some plugins for After Effects, but yeah, the Adobe Suite uses it. It supports them. Sketch, which is also a popular UX tool, also supports it, and then the web also supports variable fonts. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it looks very beautiful. Like, congrats on making like a variable typeface. Those are, I can only imagine how difficult those are to like create all those nodes and everything. My question was back on when you were challenging the guy from Commercial Type. I think that's really cool. What will be like the takeaway and like the point of like you creating this typeface?
The takeaway?
Yeah, like what would be like the overall like what is this for, or like who, like the concept of like creating this, like what is it for, the impact?
Yeah, I think I kind of wanted to explore what the benefits of variable type are, especially when designing type. And so I think that like through this exploration, I kind of figured out how hard it is to design a variable font, but also what are the benefits of making it variable from the begin with. Yeah, and I think kind of discovering what axes are relevant and usable. I think that's kind of like, that was kind of my takeaway of the whole project, is like when I'm designing, maybe I do want this to look a little weirder, or maybe I want this to be more of a text weight versus a display weight. And those are two things as a designer I really want and find beneficial. So I think, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yep.
So Annie, what are you thinking of doing after you graduate?
So I will be working on the Call of Duty design team starting on Monday, which is really exciting. So I'm here in LA, and I'll be starting there next week. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
So
you.
have you played Call of Duty?
I have a little bit, yeah.
Is this kind of font variation used in animation at all, or like in video games?
No, I think I asked that. A lot of people are having their own type designed for either brands. I think interfaces too, like YouTube just, I think YouTube might have just released a variable font that they're using. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, it's not as popular. Video games too, they're actually like moving at such a quick pace that often they don't have time for it. But yeah.
Do you see yourself creating any other fonts?
Yeah, I love creating fonts. I'm hoping to keep going with this font, make it as complete as possible with numbers and punctuation and everything. So I'm hoping to, and make sure the spacing is all perfect. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Great
Oh,
project.
amazing.
Love that you got to talk to Matthew Carter.
It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and one time I sat next to him at an AIGA event, and I asked him, "Are you Matthew Carter?" And he said, "Shh, don't tell anyone." And then I did. Yeah.
Annie, congratulations on a really, really great presentation and project. I'm really, I'm blown away with what you made this semester. It's great. It was so wonderful to work with you in the fall in our Designing Joy section. And congratulations on your job.
Yeah.
But hold on. Congratulations on your job. But I hope I still get to see more